folks, welcome ye all to yet another podcast of mine. Another Friday has caught up with us, people. Yes, it has, and I say that as if I was here last Friday, and I was not. As those of you who follow the channel will know, I didn't post a podcast last week, and the reason for that is because I had a little break, people. I was on a little holiday. I finally got to go up to Scotland and see my boy Aaron Brew. I've not seen him since the pandemic started. And a bit longer, so it's been about a year and a half. I mean, we talk every day on the texts and stuff. You guys know that if you follow the channel. And it was just great to get up there, see his new digs and all that sort of stuff. And with that in mind, I thought, well, I don't want to leave you with nothing. So those astute of you will have seen all of the Let's Plays that I put up for the period that I was away. So I think even before I went, I think from the Thursday last week, I posted up a video every day all the way through to the following Tuesday. So that Tuesday just gone. And even on 2 of those days, you got 2 videos. So every day you got a Dragon Age Inquisition, which was what I did was I effectively took the Xbox One X playthrough that I was doing about a year ago. On the Xbox One X, I was doing a Let's Play. We got to part 30, and it was actually really popular, but I got dragged away doing other things, and I basically carried on that Let's Play into its own little playlist. So if you want to watch the Dragon Age Inquisition Let's Play right from the beginning, then go and look out the playlist for the Xbox One X, and that's parts 1 to 30, and then 31 through to 36, I feel like we got to, are in the Xbox Series X playthrough, which has now, of course, got the FPS boost on it, which is why I wanted to show it off. And it looks glorious in all its 60 FPS splendor. It really, really does. It plays fantastically well. And yeah, as one person posted up in the comments, I apologise, I forget your name. But yes, it is a little bit disappointing that it is at 900p. We did get that game, I think, at 1080p on the PlayStation 4. Not at 60 FPS, mind you. But, I will, as I say all the time, I will take 60 FPS over higher graphics any day of the week. And to be honest with you, it looks amazing. I mean, honestly, I don't sit there playing that game thinking, well, that's not 1080p. I just don't get that from it at all. And the extra clarity and crispness you get from 60 FPS is just stunning on its own anyway, So there you are. So I hope you all enjoyed that. It'd been a long hiatus from me doing any Let's Plays at all. I got the buzz for it, so I thought I would do some for that very purpose of me being away. And we'll see what happens now I'm back, people. I do have a few things that I wanted to show, at least a couple of episodes off on the channel. I'm a little bit behind with things now anyway. The Ascent was one that I was going to show off at least a couple of episodes of, and Death's Door was another one I was going to try and have a little go of. Death's Door I would need to pay for, though. Ascent is on Games. I keep calling it Games Pass. I think it's Game Pass. Get your names right, Stephen. Anyway, so yes, my trip away was wonderful. I got 6 glorious days with my boy and his new pad, and we basically just chilled and played games. We went out. We went to see the new Suicide Squad movie, which, by the way, is awesome. If you've not seen it, it's stupid and silly, but it's just awesome. Absolutely fantastic. Way better than the one that came. It's not even they're not even calling it a sequel, are they? It's just a whole reboot of the thing, apart from they used the same Harley Quinn, of course. But it was absolutely fantastic. Absolutely loved it. So we did a number of things. But anyway, here's the thing. So one of the things that now the main banner and topic and stuff on this is probably going to be more Dead Space news, which I don't like posting up more Dead Space stuff when the last one I did was about Dead Space, but people, the news is what it is. Now, while I've been away, I've not really been keeping up to date with what's been going on in the gaming world, so I just grabbed some of the little headlines. Aaron Brew, my son, fed me a little snippet of Dead Space news today, so we'll talk about that. We're also going to talk about the Coalition's show off of the Unreal Engine 5. and we'll show a little bit of that and see what we think and discuss that a little bit. And I will get to it, as always. And now that I know how to do it, people, I will have put all the time codes in the description below. So if you want to go straight to the bit that you saw in the thumbnail or saw me, advertise that way, simply and don't want to listen to me prattle on about all this other nonsense, people. And I wouldn't blame you, you know what I mean? I mean, it does my head in sometimes. Come on now, you want to listen to me prattle on for at least 30 to 45 minutes, surely. This might be quite a short one. Anyway, all the time codes below. So if you want to go to the bit that you're interested in, go straight there. And I think in order, I was going to talk about the coalition stuff first, but I think we'll just go straight into this particular topic, because when I was going up to see my son in his new flat, I didn't know what to get him as a flat woman gift, I suppose you get it. But I wanted to get him something for the flat, from his dad, or his pops, as he calls me now. And there was nothing. I kept asking him, what do you need? What do you want? But I think he had everything. So with him being, he's got the PS5, he's got the Switch, but he does not have any Xbox stuff. And he's not had an Xbox since the 360 days, because he really did go down the PlayStation and then the Switch route. So with that in mind, because of all the Bethesda becoming Microsoft, and there are now things that I know that he'll fancy giving a shot, or there's already games out there. He's never going to become predominantly Xbox, but I thought it would be nice if I could buy him an Xbox Series S, was basically where I was going with this. So days before I was going, I thought I'll fire onto Amazon, just see if I can get my hands on an Xbox of some description. I mean, if it had come down to it, I would have gotten the X if that's all that was available. As it happens, it was the S that popped up as available. So I ordered it straight away. And I also got him one of these holders of the Master Chief holder, which I've shown you all already, but I don't know if you can see Master Chief behind me. My chair's blocking it. But it's a big Master Chief that holds your controller or a phone. So that was his gift. So inevitably, as we were up there, we thought, let's fire that up, let's get his account set up, all that. Well, his account was still there from donkeys ago, so we got that. Although he seemed to have two accounts, one of which had all his G's on it from way back in the 360 days, and then there was another one that he must have set up for some particular reason that had no G's on it. So it was like a clean slate, and he thought, right, I'm going to change my name on that one and use that one. So that was all good. We ended up with all the Dead Space news. We ended up just playing Dead Space 1, because he'd never finished it. He'd finished Dead Space 2, but he'd never finished Dead Space 1. So we thought, right, we'll play Dead Space 1 then, because it's on the back compat and it was immediately free. He signed up to Game Pass straight away, got the first month for £1, and he thinks he's just going to hang on to it now for $10.99. But as we know, you can just cancel it and sign up again when something comes out that you want. But he's just realised and seen this entire massive back catalogue of games now on back compat and all these sort of things. Just so happens, as an Ultimate member, of course, because of the EA Play access, you get Dead Space 1, 2 and 3. Although we didn't play 3. I was tempted to go in and do it, because I still feel like there is good bits of 3, but it just wasn't anywhere near the first 2. And, but we had an absolute ball with it. But here's my thing, right? I unpacked the Xbox Series S with him, and I immediately loved that little console. It looks amazing. It packs a punch. You can feel the weight of it. There's power in there. And it looks beautiful. I mean, it's a really nice looking machine. It really is. And I for the life of me, can't figure out why the other two are so fuck ugly. I would have taken a version of that, but just bigger. I mean, it looks great. I mean, I would have taken a black one. I mean, black and white's fine. I mean, it looks great. In his flat, it looks great. Apartment, we're talking about there. If you're an American viewer, people, we call them flats in this in this country. We call them a flat. You will call them an apartment. And so in his new flat, it looks great, because it is now, well, when we set it up, it was so small that it could actually sit right in front of the TV without getting involved with the TV screen. But now that when I left, he kind of fiddled around a bit more with it, and he's now got it side by side with his PlayStation 5 and his Skybox for his satellite digital TV. And it looks great, because the black and white PlayStation 5, black and white Xbox Series S. And I tell you though, I mean, I love that little machine, and I'm this tempted to actually buy one and have it as a second Xbox up here, and possibly think about doing any sort of streaming that I do up here somehow, because I've now got the setup up here to do, well, any of the retro stuff that I want to do on PS3, PS2, or Xbox 360, which of course a lot of the 360 stuff I can now play on back compat anyway. So I mean, I love the fact I've got an Xbox Series X. Of course I do. I like having the extra oomph, but the more I think about it, the more because I always pick 60 FPS above 4K, then I'm not seeing any of the real benefit of, well, I mean, that's not quite true. I mean, the Xbox Series X does pack a bit more of a punch in performance. I mean, that's fine. It's not just graphical, but I'm not seeing the graphical benefits of the Series X because I inevitably have to, and I'm playing everything at 1080p or 1440p, because when you pick the performance mode, that's what happens. It drops from 4K down to something else. So admittedly, we only played, a couple of back compat games, but they played beautifully. Well, that's not true. We did play a little bit of Ascent just to see what it was like, and it looked gorgeous. Everything was fast as hell. It looks really, really good. It's getting a mixed bag, the Ascent, so far as it could be a bit more friendly in its usage, but it's a great looking game, and the shooting stuff in it is really, really fun. We only played an hour of it because I do want to do a little one and part one and part two for you guys on the channel if I can manage it. Same with Death's Door. But we rammed through Dead Space 1 and 2 in the 6 days that I was there, and we just adored it. And they just ran beautifully. Everything was great. The controller, we put 2 Duracell batteries in the controller because it's the one thing I forgot. I turned up with the whole kit, and then of course it comes with 2 Duracells, I think, anyway. But I thought, oh crap, what happens if we run out of battery? We're going to have to go and buy batteries. So while I was there, I actually ordered some rechargeable ones that can go in the controller, and you can use those. So they actually arrived a few days before I was due to come back. Well, in fact, I think 2 days after I was there. But we never used them because even the last night when we were still gaming, we looked how much battery power was left. It was still no, I mean, it wasn't even like, it had only just a tiny piece off of the battery symbol. There was hardly any. I mean, it was unbelievable. I mean, that's not the Series S, of course. I mean, that's the same on the Series X. The amount of time you get off the battery on the controller is just insane compared to the DualSense or even the DualShock before it. I mean, you can just, I mean, that was effectively, I mean, we were playing, I mean, I can't even think how many hours it was, but you could basically all night for most of the nights we were there, and it was still full power on the control. Well, not full, but I mean, 2/3, at least 2/3. Might even have been a bit more. So, I mean, it is, I mean, anyway, I fell in love with the Xbox Series S. I really, really did. It's a fantastic console. And I'll tell you this, and I'll tell you no more, people. Can I just say this before we go any further? Flaggins up to you all, people. Flaggins up to you all. So that's a long time since I've done a podcast or a vlog with a flagon. As it happens, I had to throw this particular podcast together quite quickly because I only got back yesterday. And I've spent all of today pretty much going for a big swim and then going for a big run, 10k run, by which I beat my personal best, which was when I was about 38 or 39. So my 50-year-old ass has just beaten my 38, 39-year-old self on my best 10k ever. Where did that come from, people? Good grief. Anyway, where was I going? But anyway, yeah, I mean, I've completely lost track of what I was going to say. But we played every night that whole time, and the controller was great. But I really, really, if I was, that's what I was going to say. If I was a parent, well, I am a parent, but if I was a parent with young children or, whatever, and someone said to me, I need to get the kids a console for Christmas, or, what would you recommend? I mean, for kids of that age, I mean, well, not even that age, even teenagers. I understand that there's going to be first-party titles, but a lot of the first-party titles, other than Ratchet and Clank from PlayStation, are going to be sort of more adult-orientated. So without any shadow of a doubt, an Xbox Series S and Games Pass is exactly what you want as a parent. Because you're not going to be forking out stupid amounts of money for brand new games. Certainly not the first party ones. There might be the odd one, that's a third party one that they have to have day one and all that stuff, all that jazz. And, that sort of thing. But you've immediately got this library of hundreds of games. There's loads of kid-friendly ones on there. And there's a constant rotation of the games that are on Games Pass. And that console is nice and dinky. It tucks away nicely. There's no discs. It's all digital. I mean, the whole thing is just perfect for the family environment. It really, really is. I could not recommend that console more. And I just think it's outstanding. And then when the kids get older, into their teens, and they want that extra power and stuff, then you can think about, an X or whatever. But I genuinely believe that the Xbox Series S is probably the unsung hero of this gen, because for 300, I can't remember what it was. It wasn't £300. It's $300, isn't it? It's $299. Can't remember what I paid for it. Say £250, I think it was, something like that. For that price mark into the new gen, and when you're looking at the two big hitters, which are £400 each, $450, I can't remember now, but a lot more. I mean, the only downside to that console is because it's digital only, you're going to be downloading a lot and you want a bit of space, but there isn't a bit of space. You've got 500 gig. It's not a lot. And even then, I think it's not even that, because it's a lot of it's taken up by the operating system and stuff. I think when we looked, it was 380 gig or something. So it is a very small amount of storage. That said, you can, yes, you can plug in for anything that's not a new gen game. So any back compat stuff and all that sort of thing, any Xbox One games, you can shove them onto an external hard drive that you'll get for £30 or something. Get a 1 terabyte one. £30 might be a bit stretched, but get a 1 terabyte, hard drive for £40-50 or whatever you can get, and put those games on there, and anything that's coming from the new gen worth of games you can stick onto the space that you've got. Because let's face it, to upgrade that console so that it's got the official memory card, which is the only one you can use to upgrade it by 1 terabyte, is going to cost you about the same as the console cost. I mean, it's that expensive. It's what, 250 quid or whatever it was. For the upgrade of RAM. It might be down to 200 now, I'm not sure, but it's still way expensive. It defeats the purpose of having an S. You might as well get an X. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of talk about the experience I had with the S, because obviously I've got the X, which I'm delighted with. I love it, but I just wish it was a bit nicer looking. Same with the PlayStation 5. So yeah, anyone who was thinking about or holding off for an X and doesn't want to get the S, I mean, I can highly recommend it. I mean, it packs a hell of a punch, and it's, if you're not into the 4K world yet, or if you're like me and you're not even bothered about 4K, more so you're more bothered about 60 FPS, I'll tell you, it's not the first time I've seen a Digital Foundry video comparing the 60 FPS performances on both the X and the S wins out because the version of the game is just more attuned to that environment than it is with the X. So without any doubt, if you're thinking about 60 FPS gaming more than you're thinking about 4K gaming, the S is an absolute, I mean, it's well worth a thought, people. If you're not bothered about discs and you want to go all digital as well, well worth a thought. So I hope that helps somebody who might be thinking about a new gen console in the coming. Well, in fact, or people that are sitting waiting to try and get their hands on the ones that you can't get your hands on. I'd absolutely, I mean, you could get it just now and then later on, trade it in and get yourself an X once the X's become more available. But I tell you, it's a great little machine, that absolutely fantastic. You won't feel hard done by whatsoever, and it looks great. I mean, I was thinking about this, and this is moving topics a little bit. I wasn't going to talk about this. I might have talked about it in the last podcast, but I can't remember. I had a conversation with Aaron Brew when I was up there because we were talking about consoles, because I bought him the S. And he was adamant. He was like, they'll definitely do a mid-gen upgrade again. And I was like, well, what's the purpose though? Like, because they're already uber powerful, these machines. And then, well, we both kind of agreed that, well, there is a struggle to get true 4K and 60 FPS. That just isn't happening. The 60, if you want 60 FPS, you're going to get an upscaled version of 4K. You're not getting true 4K in pretty much every scenario, with the exception of certain types of games like racing games and very linear type games, or, but when you're talking about trying to get 60 FPS into open world games, or, a more varied amount of games, they are struggling to get that true 4K with 60 FPS. So for us, our thought process was, well, yeah, we think there will be a midway, probably a thinner version and a little bit more power just to get that true 4K and 60 FPS. I think that may well happen. And I think the fact that it was so popular last time, I think that door's now been opened and it's going to be very hard to shut it. I think if they were nailing 4K 60, then they'd be hard stuck to find a reason to have a more powerful mid-gen jump. But You know, I mean, you could have like the old days where you would just get a slimmed down version of it, and or a better looking version of the console. You know, like the PS3 Fat went to the PS3 Slim, and then the Super Slim, and all that sort of stuff. You could do all those sort of things. The Xbox 360 was the same, as was the Xbox One. Well, they had their mid-gen upgrades, but the Xbox One still had a sort of standard version that was slimmed down. But yeah, so I mean, we genuinely believe that there is plenty of room for a mid-gen, changeover. So even with that in mind, you could go for an S just now and just ride the tide, and then wait for the mid-gen jump, which may be in a few years' time, and just enjoy the game at 60 FPS on the Series S. And then when the mid-gen upgrades come, go right. Well, I'll go for that now and get the slightly more Uber one, because it can now do 4K 60. So, well worth thinking about, well worth a thought. So anyway, I hope those thoughts have helped somebody in a decision-making process. If you are thinking about new gen, or you're holding off to get that Ubered Series X or PlayStation 5, and you think, you know what, a Series S might actually just do me from a 60 FPS, and 1440p for now. It's well worth it. Really, really is. If you've no intention of playing at 4K 30 and you want 60 FPS every time, then S is your answer, people. S is the word. I've got to say, that's rather nice, that is. For those people who don't know, we actually have a Flagons Up ale glass. Look at that. Flagons Up to you all, people. The only catchphrase I've ever come up with. Right, well, that's not true, is it? Seems reasonable. For anyone that watches my Let's Plays. Anyway, right. I think I might say that on these as well, to be fair. What else have we got? Right. While I was away... Right, let's talk about the Unreal Engine Coalition demos first. Now, I've only looked at these briefly, and I saw a little bit of chat about them. And it was quite funny. There's two, right? There's two demos of what the Coalition... There's not for any particular purpose other than to show off what the Unreal Engine 5 can do. And the Coalition, for those people who don't know, I'm sure you do, make the Gears of War games. So they were kind of showing off what's possible with both environment and with character creations. Well, characters in general, and for in-engine footage. So it's just giving us a taste of what we can kind of expect that's coming. And I have to say, like, it is really impressive, but it doesn't really give you anything in any kind of environment that would go, wow, well, because I remember... Well, okay, so we've got two, right? We've got one that does an environment, and we've got environment-ish, and then you've got one that's kind of a character, and it's showing off the skin tones and the textures of both the skin and the armor and leathers and all that sort of stuff. The environment one is kind of, I think, trying to show off this sort of bricky stonework type stuff, and then you've got this sort of like a pyramid type, a double pyramid that's sort of spinning around, and it's shiny, very silvery shiny, so it's reflecting all of the stuff that's around it as it spins round. So it's kind of showing all that sort of stuff off, and the lightings and all that sort of stuff. And they're very, very short trailers, and hopefully I've put them up behind me. And it is super impressive. It's, I think the PlayStation 5 one was a little bit more impressive, because it did show what can happen inside a performance, inside gameplay effectively, which is what they showed us, just this character running through the system, giving us pauses and walkthroughs to show us how the illumination and all that worked, because they were doing illumination differently than the super powerful ray tracing that's used at the minute. So they were using this luminum. You know what I mean? You'll know what I mean if you watched it. And, so they I think what they did kind of showed off what's possible inside a game rather than just showing us. Because if you remember, if we take the footage of this one, which is showing off a person or a character with a beard and the armor on and everything. I mean, PlayStation did a similar thing to that when they were showing off the PS4. And they had that character, that guy talking into the... I think they expanded on it at one point as well. But it was a really impressive piece of, this is what we can do in engine with a face. But of course, that never came to fruition inside an actual game. I mean, it might have done in a cutscene, but it never came to fruition inside a game as a playable character. And it's pretty much the same with this. It's like, well, what, is that what we're going to see in a cutscene, or is that what we're going to see in a game? Like, we'll find out as time goes on, I guess. But still, super, super impressive. Now, here's a funny fact, right, that they were saying. When you look at the footage of the guy, one eyelash of that guy is the same amount of coding that was required in to do a whole character in or power to do a whole character in a 360. So the power being used to generate one eyelash is the same power that was used to generate a whole character in 360. I mean, that's just insane. That just shows you the power we're now using compared to the Xbox 360. And for me, it highlights just how bloody impressive games like Dead Space 1 and 2 are, because they look sensational to this day. I mean, Backcompat's done a wonderful job with them as well, making them run at what seems to be 60 FPS. But certainly very, very smoothly. They look better. They're smoother. Brilliant. And I mean, it just goes to show you how much they creamed out of those systems when it came down to it. After a lot of years using them, I think Dead Space 1, to be fair, wasn't that far into the cycle of them. But yeah, I mean, I found that an incredible fact. One eyelash was to make one eyelash is the same power that made a whole character on the 360. It's like, what the shit? Unbelievable, people. So yeah, so it's given us a little bit of a taster of what we can expect, going into the new Gears of War stuff, or whatever the Coalition are on with now. They might not be doing a Gears 6, they might be doing something else. I'd be very surprised if, it was left sort of open, wasn't it? Gears 5, so I'd be very surprised if Gears 6 isn't in the making now. They certainly want to tidy that story off, I think, and then decide what they're going to do with that franchise afterwards, I would have thought. But anyway, it was nice to see it, though. It's nice to see little snippets like that are going to sort of whet our appetites for what's about to come. What else do we have, people? Well, we got more Dead Space news, right? So, as I said, this may well be a slightly shorter podcast because I had very little time to sort of grab some little news items and get all set up to bring you guys something. But I didn't want to have 2 whole weeks of me not chatting to you guys. You know what I mean? This is my therapy. I keep telling you. Talking at the camera is my therapy. I miss you guys. I'm way too long. You know this. So, yeah. So, this... while I was away... we also got more... In fact, this isn't true. This information came out today, as far as I remember, because it was Aaron Brew that flagged it, as he normally does. He's my source of many informations. And there was been more things sort of trickling out of the Dead Space news, if you will. People that are finding out little tidbits of what's going on. I mean, in general terms, the facts that have sort of dripped out now are that it's being rebuilt. This is the Dead Space remake, right? So it's being rebuilt from the ground up in the EA Frostbite engine. It's not just a touch-up version. They're going to be doing a lot more to it than that. And they're kind of going for... So they're going to remove any bits. I mean, we don't know what this means yet, and I hope it's not going to have a direct impact on the things that I loved about those first 2 games, certainly. But they said they're going to remove bits that just didn't work in the original one. Now, for me, I don't know what that would be other than the kinesis was fantastic in the second one, but not great in the first one. So you need to bring that. If you can bring that kinesis into the first one, that would be a huge bonus. Stomping wasn't quite as, smashing the boxes and stomping and stuff wasn't quite as good in the first one. And flying about was not flying about in the first one. It was sort of pushing yourself off and landing on other areas. So if they can bring the flight mechanics in, that would be great. And we already know that they don't want to make a step-by-step, frame-by-frame remake. They want to put their own stamp on it. So we don't know what that means yet as far as new areas or, the Ishimura being... I'd love just to be able to see more of the Ishimura. I hope they don't take us off of the Ishimura, because that's what makes that game super spooky. You're floating in space on this spaceship that's just havoc all over it. And spoiler if you've not played Dead Space, but you do end up going down to a planet, but that's right at the end of the game, and it's for a big finale. So, and it really did. I mean, yes, you're on a planet. It didn't really feel like it was still an environment similar to the ship for most of it. So they also said, which was interesting, was they want to make it with no loading screens, right? So in effect, like what they did with God of War, so it's one shot from beginning to end. That sounds awesome to me, because that was already a game that removed all the hub stuff from the screen. There is nothing on the screen apart from you and Isaac Clarke playing and you playing the game. There's no menu items. There's nothing. Like everything that you need to see is on his suit. The health bars on his suit, his kinesis stasis stuff, his stasis stuff. Anything you need to know about, things that would normally be in a little icon somewhere on the screen. There's none of that. So you are immersed in the game entirely. And if they keep that, which they should, and absolutely they should, then, and they, you can see that they are, I think, because of that little tiny snippet of trailer that we got. You see the health bar going up on the back of Isaac's suit. But I think the one continuous frame lends itself to that. So you're never out of the story. You're just going through it all the way. You never stop to load anything. You never, And I thought, well, I said to Aaron Brew, I said, well, that sounds like what it is already, really, because all you have is a door to open to the next area, and they're super quick, those doors. Obviously, they're there to just give a little moment to load what it needs to for the next section, but in the main part, it is kind of a continuous walkthrough with those doors, just having those doors to open. That said, Aaron Brew rightly said, well, you've got the trams, though. So that's true. At the end of each act or each chapter, you end up back on the tram with a loading screen that then takes you into the next part. And to be fair, in fact, my back compat is super quick. But yes, if they can get rid of that, so maybe you get on the tram, but the tram is in fact something happens in the tram each time. You have a proper conversation, because you can have a conversation with the characters while you're in the tram, and it'll just take you to the next section, because you don't want to lose that feeling for the fact that you are traveling to the next section. Also, if the tram's made big enough, you can have a proper fight on there each time you go on with different types of enemies, or you can have conversational stuff with characters, or there's all sorts of stuff you can do, but it would still be a simultaneous shot getting onto the tram and the tram taking off and taking you to the next section. So I hope that's what they're thinking about. I hope they don't. I mean, they could get rid of the tram altogether and you have to walk everywhere. But for me, if you take the tram away, it kind of takes away how big the ship is. It's bloody massive. It's a planet cracker. It's a huge, massive ship. And the trams are there because it's so bloody massive to get around. I think to some extent you don't feel that even in these games anyway, as they are. Because, yeah, you're on a tram, but you don't really... I mean, the only time you do feel it is there is one section. It's not a tram, though, I don't think. There's one section where you stand on it and it starts going across like a rail. It's like a rail car or something. And you kind of see... you can see toward the top end of the ship, and there is one section that does it quite well. But yeah, I mean, I think if you can make that tram system something that is interactive rather than a loading screen, then you'll give it that sense of size. And here's the big one. Rumor is that's leaking out is that their target is fall 2022. That's next autumn, people. So considering we only saw a tiny snippet of trailer or clip, as we call it in this country, I'm very happy with that, and I'm very, very surprised that that's their target. But that would suggest to me that they're actually much further into this than we think they are, because you don't make a game in a year. Even if you're working from a template like that, you just don't make a game in a year. Especially when you're building it from the ground up and bringing none of that engine with you. All right, you've got all the art stuff, you've got all the concept for the story, you know what your beginning is, you know what your end is, anything you change in between, a lot of the work is done, obviously. Like the design stuff, obviously, you've got a massive template to work with, but they're bringing none of that engine, none of that graphical stuff, so they are building it from the ground up in the Frostbite engine. And for me, that sounds to me like they must have been working on it for at least a year. I mean, I would give it, so yeah, so that would be a 2 year. I feel like it's the same sort of turnaround that Jedi Fallen Order got. That was kind of announced and then arrived within 2 years. So yeah, I'm super surprised, but super happy that we are looking at fall next year. I suspect though, unless COVID really is starting to ease up, which it feels like it is, people, the numbers in this country and the UK are falling. So, you know, if the rest of the world can follow suit, get the vaccination program sorted out, and the mass immunity the herd immunity kicks in, then I think things will, you know, if people start ending up back in their offices safely, obviously, then I don't see any reason it won't hit target. However, if things do drag on a little bit with people still working remotely, then I could easily see like a delayed until spring 23 or, you know, whatever. But anyway, super exciting news. It sounds like it's sooner rather than later. What else did we have? Well, there's a couple of things going on just now. Flight Sim, you already know that's on expert. That was a bit of news I jotted down thinking I was going to do a podcast before I went away. But Microsoft Flight Simulator is now on Games Pass. So if you haven't tried that out, you can go and give that a go. It's supposed to be fantastic. Not my cup of tea, but supposed to be absolutely amazing, that game. Like a 10 out of 10 jobber. A Kena, Bridge of Sacrifice, I think it's called, isn't it? Has been delayed to 20. Why have I written down 21st of September? I thought it had been delayed until next year. But anyway, it's been delayed until the 21st of September, according to my notes, people. I'll believe my own notes, even if you don't. So it's been delayed a little bit. That's fine. You know, it looks like it's made by not like a massive studio, just a slightly smaller one. But it looks great. So it's got that kind of fantasy feel to it. It's got a little bit of it had a little bit of Zelda about it. Felt a little bit Linkish, you know, the gameplay that we saw of the character and the world for that matter. And the little cute characters that she's talking to, the beautiful lush forest environment, the way that she fights felt very, very Zelda-esque. So I am really interested to see how that game does when it comes out. And I'm glad that they're going, you know what, we just need a bit more time to get this right. I don't see a problem with it. I think everyone forgives it now because it is what it is. We're still in the middle of a pandemic and, you know, we have to give the developers the time they need to sort the games out. We want them right, people. We don't want them rushed. We've already been burned by that before, plenty of times. I mean, Jedi Fallen Order is a prime example. Without any doubt, if that game wasn't trying to make a deadline for the final Star Wars film coming out, then they would not... I don't think they would have launched that game when they did. I think they were forced to launch that game by EA, I think. Simply because they wanted it out for the Star Wars movie arriving I think it was that December, wasn't it? And I think the game came out in the November or something like that. I think they definitely wanted it out for the movie anyway because they wanted to have maximum impact on the movie being launched. And you can argue it was the right call, but the game was a bit of a technical mess when it first came out. There was a lot of bugs in it. I didn't experience a lot of them because the Xbox One X didn't have anywhere near the problem. The base consoles, I mean, it was kind of broken on. I mean, some of the footage I saw was just incredibly bad. And, you know, I think if you had a PS4 Pro and an Xbox One X, you were okay. But anything below that, you'd got a bit of a mess. It's been patched a lot since then. I don't know how good or bad it is now, but I felt like that game just was far too big and powerful for those base consoles. But yeah, I mean, I just hope that the Dead Space crew don't fall victim of that. They shouldn't, because they don't have any kind of movie deadline to match, or, you know, just EA, just let them have all the time they need to make that right, because the last thing we need is a great game that's just bugged all over. You know, we get enough of that from Bethesda. Let them get that game nice and crisp, please. You know, it makes sense. Hey, what else have we got? Well, there's a couple of betas been going on, and I think we might have missed out on... What date are we on, people? I don't even know what the date is. Well, it's the 6th, so yeah, we're still in date. Well, there's been a beta going on for Halo Infinite on the multiplayer. By all accounts, I'm hearing nothing but great stuff about how people have been getting on with it, so that's really exciting. I think, to be fair to Halo 5, they did do a superb multiplayer for it. So sounds like they've taken that and they've just made it better and better still. Hopefully the campaign can match up to it, which is what they seem to have taken the extra time for. So it was nice to hear all of that feedback coming back that Halo Beta is doing really well. I don't think any of us normal folks can get onto it. I think you could register, but it seemed to be just an awful lot of famous YouTuber people that seem to be, or Twitch people that seem to be getting access to it. I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong. Maybe there was a way of getting codes. If you've got codes, if you've been playing it, let me know in the comments below, people. Let me know in the comments below what you think of it. And Back 4 Blood is currently in an open beta. I keep forgetting that game is out on October 12th. For anyone that doesn't know, Back 4 Blood is the same people that made Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2, and Back 4 Blood is basically another one of those types of games. They just renamed it, but they've still got the 4 in it, as Left 4 Dead did. It's now Back 4 Blood. And it looks, if you're into the zombie shooter thing with 4-person, I mean, that's what they do, this company. They basically, because they were the ones that made, I always forget the name of it. Not Primeval. What was it called? Extinction? No, someone can remind me in the comments below, but it was the one where you basically had to track down the monster and fight it with your mates, and one of you did the health, one of you did this weapon, one of you did that. You have to work together to make it happen, and this is the kind of game that they make, and they are, I mean, Left 4 Dead was far more popular than that one was, but Evolve, thank you for whoever said that. But yes, Back 4 Blood looks like it's going to be a massive hit. The beta is going on at the moment. It's an open beta, and it's on from the 5th until the 9th of August, so there's still a number of days left yet. If you want a code, you need to pre-order it. If you pre-order the game, you will get a beta code, and it will be sent to you, I assume, via email, and you'll be able to join in with the beta, which you've got until the 9th to sort all that out. And by all accounts, from what I've been seeing, people seem to be enjoying that as well, which is super good to see. I have no idea how long I've been talking for, people, but that is all I have for you today. So that was, well, it must have been a little while. Must have been half an hour at least, people. You know what I mean? Going by my clocks. The problem is, as I say all the time, I can't tell, because normally I can see because I record on the camcorder, I record me and obviously sound, but this isn't the sound you hear. You hear the sound coming from this microphone. This microphone is recorded on the laptop on a little thing that's got a timer on it, a little microphone recording thing. Just a Windows one. But it's got a little clock on it. But because this slideshow behind me is running from the laptop, that also takes up the screen of the laptop, so I can't see what the time is. So, I just ramble on until I'm done, people, and hope that it's a long enough podcast for you. Well, flaggins up once again to you all. It is nice to be back. I hope you all enjoyed the Let's Plays that I came back and did. Let me know in the comments below if you enjoyed the Dragon Age Inquisition stuffs. And I also did a couple of Dungeons & Dragons Dark Alliance. Which, to be fair to Dark Alliance, was actually the first part I was totally confused. It's because the text was so small in the bit that it was where it was telling me to do stuff in the tutorial. I wasn't seeing it, and I kept playing and playing and playing. I thought, how long is this going to go on for? But I had to do very specific things at very specific times, and I hadn't noticed what it was telling me to do bit. Once we got past that, in the first part, we then did a little bit of the first area. But the second part is a lot more interesting to watch, because it was that whole area that we just arrived in. And I have to say, I did have fun with it. I think it's one of those games you'll have far more fun if you play it as a group of whatever it is, 3 or 4 people that are allowed to play together. It's definitely built for that. It was a really nice game to look at. The battle system was a little bit wobbly from time to time, or it was like, this is what I'm trying to do, but she didn't quite turn right, or she didn't quite do something. I was didn't feel as smooth as it could be, but it was still really good fun. I had a really good time with it. Is it something that I would go back and play myself? Probably not. I'm glad I brought it to you guys to let you see it, though. I think it's going to be fun if you're playing with friends, family, whatever. I think you can have a good time with that game. Absolutely. Looks like it's got a lot of good looting in it. So I think you've got plenty to be getting your hands on with the loot system they've got in there. Looks like there's plenty of areas to go and do, and DLCs maybe as well. So yeah, I mean, it's just another great addition, and it was on Game Pass again. There's no reason not to go and try it, people. I didn't talk about the Ascent. I mean, I guess... Yeah, I mean, I might save it for when I actually do a little bit of a Let's Play on it. I might do a part 1 and a part 2, something like that. I did have fun with it. I was actually quite surprised how in-depth the bloody thing goes. I thought it was just going to be like Diablo, where you just like, you know, off you go and just slaughter stuff all over the place. But they have thought about it, you know, they the way that it works, like, it's almost... You're almost playing it like you would play a first person or a third person behind a third person game, but top down, because the buttons are, you know, you can crouch, you can go up, but you know, you can raise your rifle. I mean, your rifle can have 3 heights effectively, you know, lower, middle, or above. And, you know, they've kind of, I don't know, it was just kind of, it's still a twin stick shooter, but they brought these extra elements into it. And then also then, you do the first bit of action, but then you do end up wandering through the town. And, you know, I actually wandered about more than I should have done. This was at Aaron's on the Xbox Series S. And we just thought we'd try it for an hour. I ended up wandering about the town for ages, and then realised that if I'd just gone to the marker for the story quest, it would have told me to wander about and find these people anyway, and given me some action. So I guess it was kind of good to see that hour, so that when I record it for you guys, I won't be fumbling about quite so much. But... it's a great game. I mean, I think it's a good game. I think from what I'm hearing from other people, it's just whether or not... I think it could do with some more quality of life stuff. Like, you can't put a bog standard marker down and just follow it to that path, and it's quite hard to find your way around the city. You can... It has got like a Dead Space thing where you hit the up on the D-pad, and it will show you the route to the quest that you're following. So you can follow a side quest, you can follow the main quest, and you can swap between those and then do that. But if you want to go back and find the shop that does, you know, augmentations, or the shop that does weapons, or the shop that does, you know, the way you look, or any of that sort of stuff, finding your way back to them, you can't just stick a marker down and get there. There's little things like that. So I think the quality of life stuff could be improved a little bit. But I mean, the actual game itself was really fun. The shooting, it was tough as well. I mean, I was struggling at the beginning. I couldn't get the twin stick thing going, and my brain just wasn't having it. And then about, you know, 10, 15 minutes in, it started to click. But even then, once you get that down, it's still difficult. Like, the enemies come at you, and they've got a flanking system and all sorts of stuff going on. So, and again, on Game Pass, there's no reason not to try it. The Ascent and the Dungeons and Dragons Dark Alliance game, both on Game Pass, people. If you're looking for something to do and you've got an Xbox, go play them. It's free. There you are, people. Well, that's all I have for you. I went off on a tangent there at the end because I'd forgotten to talk about the Ascent. Well, I hope some of that's been of useful to somebody, people. Some sort of use. Let me know in the comments below what you think of any of the things I've been talking about, and what you thought of the Let's Plays that I put up, and the Let's Plays that I may do in the future. It has been, yes it has, an honour and a privilege serving for you in this podcast of mine today, and I shall catch you all in the next one, folks. Take it easy. Bye.